Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. There's 4 of us tonight.
Woohoo!
Very exciting. We have a guest, and I always feel like we're about to surprise everybody who's listening, but we title our episodes like they see what it's about. But I still think it's exciting, and I still think it's a surprise that we have a guest here today, and we have romance author Lily Chu. So welcome, Lily.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm waving.
Yes, we can all see each other. You cannot see us. So I'm going to give you all a quick little blurb about Lily right from her bio page so that I catch all the good stuff because I want to talk about all her amazing books. So Lily Chu loves ordering the second cheapest wine, wearing perfume all the time, and staying up far too late with a good book. 4 of her books have been released in audio as Audible originals performed by Phillipa, The Stand-In, The Comeback, The Takedown, and Drop Dead, and John Cho also on Drop Dead. Lily's best-selling stories are critically acclaimed and have spent multiple weeks at #1 in Audible Top Plus listens and have been named in Best of the Year lists, including this year for Drop Dead on Audible. And her books have been recommended in the New York Times, and her rom-com debut, The Stand-In, was named Target's Book Club pick for May, as well as an Amazon Book of the Month and Apple Best Books of May. Translation rights have been sold for 7 languages. That's all super awesome, and I'm super fangirling right now. So again,
Thank you. I should say I put the second cheapest wine, but a sommelier told me that's actually the wine with the biggest markup.
Ooh.
So I should probably change that.
Second cheapest.
Fascinating. I did not know that.
Yeah. So there you go. If you are also like me, maybe we all need to change our wine buying habits.
That's a good Samaritan sommelier there.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I will say when I read your bio before we had you on, just because Amy was like, oh, I'm going to have Lily Chu on. And I read your bio and I was like, I would get along with her. I really love this bio. It was a really, I feel like author bios are a little underrated. I think that they really actually mean a lot. And so I just wanted to say yours was very charming.
Thank you. Because I always hear other people's author bios. And I'm like, oh man. It's like writing your own cover letter,
Yes.
You need someone else to do your bio and your cover letter because you're like, oh, I don't know.
So I
like when people are like, name one fascinating fact about yourself. That's like a icebreaker question. And I'm always like, I don't know. I don't have anything fascinating. So it's like the same thing with the bio. I can't think of anything.
Right. So I have to out Leah and I for something about Phillipa here. Because I don't know if Megan, you were there with us. So Leah and Megan, maybe you were. I think it was RWA in 2014 that was in New York. And Hamilton was in previews, but we didn't know what Hamilton was.
Yeah.
And when we were like, we're going to do one Broadway show while we're here for this conference. And we were all like, well, we don't know what this Hamilton is. We're not going to go see a historical musical. What's that?
No.
And the regret. Oh, no. I mean, I've seen, yeah. Oh yeah. I saw it twice in Chicago. And when it dropped on Disney, I stayed up until 4 a.m. I was all over it. But we could have seen Phillipa in the original cast of Hamilton. But I will also. I'm going to
story. That is a big regret,
and I can't believe that I keep admitting this in public, but I do. But another cool thing about Phillipa is she went to high school in the town that I work. She 30 minutes away from where I am. Yeah. So she's from Libertyville, Illinois. So I like to, lay a little claim to fame there with Phillipa, but she's a fantastic narrator and she's, love it.
I totally agree. I think, I didn't quite realize, I don't know, in my head, I kind of thought the narrator sort of read the book. I didn't really understand the depth of the performance that's involved in a narration. So, I think she just brings so much brightness and depth and layering to the book. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So let's just start with that. Let's start with Audible because your debut was The Takedown, right?
No, it was The Stand-In.
Oh, The Stand-In. Sorry. I'm getting them out of order because I'm reading them out of order because I'm like, I have to read the one with the K-pop idol. So yeah. So you started on Audible with Audible Originals with a knockout narrator like Phillipa. How did that all come to pass?
it's just everything is so lucky sometimes in publishing. Like it's just timing and luck and how things come together. So when I wrote The Stand-In, I started January 2020, and we all know what happened with 2020. So it went out to editors, early summer, like May, June 2020, which was not a fantastic time. And Audible just happened to kind of be one of the editors that my agent was pitching. And I hadn't really considered audio. Like back then, like I know it's only 4 years ago, but audio was really just starting to rise. Like it wasn't even close to like where it is now. Like I think the pandemic really shifted a lot in terms of listening habits and how people consume media, even though I do not have the number. So do not ask me like to cite my sources here. But it had never really occurred to me to do an audio first book. In my head, books came out, either they were ebooks or they came out print books. And that was kind of the book ecosystem. So for me, it was a really fantastic eye opener to be able to learn about this whole other kind of part of the book industry. And then for the narration, they kind of said like, what do you think? And I'm like,
like, are you serious?
What do you think? What do I think? And I was like, I mean, go ahead. We'll see how that goes. And then I actually still remember when I got the email, I was sitting on my couch in my very small, dark living room. And I saw the email from my editor saying like, hey, good news. I was like, and I just like screamed and dropped my phone and then went scrambling after my phone to kind of reread it. Cause when you get big news, you kind of can't believe your eyes. Like you really can't believe your eyes.
Yeah.
And so I had to read it many times to be like, oh, that's really great.
And what an awesome thing to happen like during the pandemic. Because not a lot of awesome stuff happened during the pandemic.
No. I would print and frame that email probably if that was me. So I can just read it all the time.
I still have it. Yeah, I still have it. You know what's funny? I actually, when I signed that contract, like this is before Phillipa came on, I signed that contract. I kind of think there's moments in your life where you kind of know things are going to change. Sometimes it's when you walk in the office of the new job. Sometimes it's you just see someone across the room. But there's moments in your life where you actually physically feel something is going to shift. And I knew when I signed that contract, I'm like, I feel like I'm never going to have this feeling again. Like I knew I was never going to have that feeling of selling that book. And so I actually wrote myself a card, like just how I felt, and I sealed it up and I have it, like I put it away because I'm like, these emotions will never come like this to me again. And I wanted to make sure I captured it. So I actually have that card to myself from like 4 years ago.
I love that so much.
And it's still
sealed?
Still sealed. I don't know if I'll ever reread it, but knowing that I got that in the moment is kind of enough.
That's so cool. Smart. I wish I would have done that for like some of the happy publishing moments and maybe the bad ones too.
More are still going to come. More is still going to come for sure.
Yeah. So you have that feeling when you sell that first book and you sell, to Audible, and audiobooks are on the rise. And then fast forward to your most recent release, Drop Dead. When did you find out that it was going to be Phillipa Soo and John Cho?
I love him.
And how did that feel?
So I knew when I started writing, like my first 3 books are all first person narration. So first person point of view. So it's just Phillipa. And then the second kind of 3 books are all dual POVs. So it's the male and female point of view. And I was kind of wondering, I'm like, I wonder who they'll pick. Like, I don't know. And they're like, hey, so. And again, I was like, okay, tell me when that works out. And again, it was a drop the phone moment. It's John Cho.
It's John Cho.
That's all I can really say. I was like, wow. And then it's really, it's cool, but it's kind of also not real until you can hear it. Like, I'm more on the pessimistic side. So I never believe something's going to happen until physically that money's in the bank, that contract is signed. I hear it, I see it, right? Because I just always feel like someone's going to pull that rug. But they're like, hey, we're going to be filming some promo. Do you want to be on the Zoom call watching? I'm like, damn straight, I want to be on that Zoom call. So when the book launched, they actually did a bunch of like really adorable little ads with Phillipa and John, it looks like they're actually in Dot's house. Like it looks like the cover.
Yep.
So I got to watch that promo being filmed. And it was like the first time I heard him going like, Drop Dead by Lily Chu. I'm like,
Like John Cho's saying my name.
Yeah.
Crazy. Listen. So that was cool.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Understatement. That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah. I don't know if I told everyone that story. I'm such a nerd, but yeah.
Rightfully
are
so.
too.
I mean, like, yes, absolutely nerd out about all the cool stuff. Like I will say, I've been an audiobook listener for probably a decade, if not more. And it started, and this was way, way back, I think before I was even writing, before I was published, I was in grad school, and one of my coworkers was like, I know you have a long drive to grad school every week. You should listen to an audiobook, because I was an English teacher at the time and also a big reader. And I was like, an audiobook, I don't know if I can like focus, if I'll pay attention. And it took one book. And like, that is the only way that I read now, unless somebody forces me to read with my eyes. Like audiobooks are just another level. Like you said, they're not reading the book. It is a full on movie, and you just make the pictures up in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear from a lot of people now, they're like, the only way I do books is audio. Like, don't care. It's just too hard. Like, I know that as I have aged, it's harder to see print page, especially.
Well, there's that too. So I've got my readers on.
I'm on like an e-reader, and like it's 4 words on the screen, so you're just constantly tapping to go forward. Or I had the pleasure of listening to an audiobook.
Yeah, it's the best. Megan, you're the one who's still not crossed over to audio yet, as much as Leah and I have.
I honestly think it's part of, I have like an auditory listening.
Yeah. And for some people, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you read fast with your eyes.
I read extremely fast.
Yeah.
I've always have. I prefer it. I just have a problem focusing sometimes. Like even when I listen to podcasts, I can tune in and out. It's not, but like, I don't like missing anything. I don't like missing what's on the page, and I know I will, because I just have a really, really hard time with it. But I really trying. I have listened to Leah's recommended several like nonfiction books that I have listened to, and for some reason those are a little bit easier for me. Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. So
that was not by any means a call out. That was just me like recognizing that not everybody does do audio.
Yeah,
and Lily's books are in print too. So that's what I was getting at. Is that Lily's books are in print too?
Yes,
through Sourcebooks, and that's how we met. Is we were at a Sourcebooks event together, which was Book Bash in Lexington, Kentucky. So if anybody who's listening was there and we got to hang with you, that was an absolutely fantastic event. So much fun. Okay. So can you give us a quick elevator pitch for Drop Dead, your most recent release?
Yes, I can. So it is about 2 rival journalists who have to band together to solve a literary mystery. So when we start the book, Nadine is a obituary editor, and she accidentally runs the obit for a reclusive author who is actually still alive. But in the course of this screw up, she kind of hears about a scandal, which she hadn't heard about. And her rival at a different media company, Wes, who's been her kind of long-term rival since J school, while gloating over her mistake, has also kind of heard about this hidden scandal. So they both turn up at Dot's front door, her gate, because she lives in a mansion, trying to get the interview. And eventually she agrees to only speak to the 2 of them. But before they get to the bottom of it, she dies. So they have 3 weeks in her magical wonderland of a house to figure out what happened and maybe fall in love.
Ooh, I love that.
It was so good. It was so much fun.
There are also cats. There are 4 cats.
I mean,
Megan,
that's up my alley. I have a mug right there that says, I work hard so my cats can have a better life.
Don't we all?
I don't have anything about my children. Okay. Just about my cats.
The reason why I'm like shut away in my freezing bedroom right now is to keep the 3 little monsters outside so they don't interrupt. But yeah, cat lady all the way.
Quietly on the couch. They're being good cats right now. And
Leah has a very
said that they're going to be bad cats.
Right. Leah has a bad cat.
Yeah, Leah has a loud cat. I think we've recorded his meows, his yowls on the pod before.
I have an orange cat, and orange cats are just insane.
Yeah, they are.
And he's an outdoor cat too, so he does some crazy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he shouldn't. We don't want him to be an outdoor cat. He's just determined. He just throws himself off our 2nd floor balcony and.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. He has ops in the neighborhood, and He's got to see to his business every day.
That's such a normal thing.
So, tropes. We talk about tropes a lot on the podcast, not just in the K-dramas that we watch, but also in our own writing. And that's something that came up, I think, a lot when we were at Book Bash as well. So what is your favorite romance trope to write and also to read?
I think it's the writing is the rivals to lovers. And I actually before I always said it was enemies to lovers until I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, well, they're not enemies. They are more rivals, because I think we were talking about this earlier. Like there's some tropes that seem to work better in different genres.
Mm-hmm.
Like fated mates. If I read that in a contemporary, I'm going to be a little weirded out, I think.
You need to watch more K-dramas, then you won't be.
That is true. That is true. But if it's anything like, on the paranormal side, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Fated forever, reincarnated to only love each other. I'm in there.
Yes.
I do love that one, actually. And I think that's probably the reading and writing. Like I find that the antagonism is just super fun and a great way to kind of set the characters and set them, against each other, but also, there's usually a respect there. Like they don't like each other, but they have to admit they're good at what they do, that I like.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Nadine and Wes, is that they do try to one-up each other, which is super fun, like professionally one-up each other, but there's no like real animosity there, right? Like it's just a rivalry, which I do think is fun, because nobody's being mean for mean's sake. It's just
That's
like,
beautiful.
my job is on the line and his job is on the line, and, I need to do the best.
Yeah. Like they're not seeking out to hurt each other.
Right.
In a mean way, which I think, if when I look around, there's just so much of that going on in real life. I'm like, maybe here they can still feel like a solid level of respect.
So we're getting to the music portion of this, but one more question before we do, because this is something that I think has differed between like all three of us, like in our writing lives, is plotter or pantser. And for those of you listening, if you're not sure what we mean by this, because we have talked about it before, but if you don't listen to every podcast, you're not going to know. So when writers are plotters, they outline before. We are often forced, if we are working with an editor, to write a synopsis anyway, because that's how they figure out how to do back cover copy and cover concept and all that stuff. So you're either a plotter or you're a pantser, which is basically flying by the seat of your pants. So which do you do?
I am more now on the plotting side, mostly because of what you said. Like now I have to hand in proposals and synopses. And because my proposals and synopses all tend to be kind of along the lines of like, here's a bunch of backstory, and then this is the story, and then some stuff happens after they kiss and reconcile. The problem I come into is that the stuff happening, which is like a third of the book. And my editors are going, hey, so that's stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be stuff, which is not flying anymore. So now I have to, usually I'll do like the general, this is where I want the story to go. And I'll do a very rough outline of chapters of very, very overall pacing, where things are going to go, just so I have that stuff kind of mapped out as to where it could go. But it usually all goes to hell somewhere, the 50,000 word mark. I mean, the benefit of writing romance is how it's going to end.
Yep.
So, there are certain beats that I use, we're all going to use. So I know at certain points this has to happen, or this should have happened, or, they should have something going on, or kiss or something by this point. Otherwise, the pacing is going to be off for the reader, and it's just not going to feel right. Like they're just going to, when you read it, it's going to be like, that's too slow, that's too fast. It's not going to be a frictionless experience, which is what I want to achieve. So now the outlining kind of helps me make sure that all the chapters are doing something in service of the book, which is, obviously the goal, rather than, before where it's like, this is cool, I like this. And it kind of, I hope, saves me a bit of time.
I was going to say, I like the part where you talk about like stuff happens, because I think as writers, we know what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
In that stuff happens. Like we know this is going to be where they start to get along. This is when they're going to make each other laugh. Like sometimes I think that's when like movies and K-dramas benefit, because that's when you would have like the amusement park montage, where they're playing the claw game and they're laughing and they're riding the Viking, and you're like, oh my God, they're starting to fall in love. And it's like, that's what you want to convey in the book, but you can't just like write like getting along montage here. You know, you have to actually
Okay. So
plot out
literally,
scenes.
I just did a chapter outline for a book and I have makeover montage.
Yes.
See? There's a chapter that just makeover montage.
Just so you know, makeover montages are like my favorite thing. This immediately hooks me.
Yeah, I love a makeover montage.
Same.
Especially the reveal when they're coming down, like in movies and stuff, when they're coming down the stairs and it starts at like the new shoes.
New shoes.
And then like goes up and then of course the glasses free face.
Of course. Because you're a whole other person when you take your glasses off every time.
Oh, I love it so much. I want to read the makeover montage because that's the thing. Sometimes it's hard because you're in your head, you're picturing, like, say, in a movie where they start from head to toe. And sometimes it's so hard to convey. You kind of want to give the same effect in print, but that is kind of difficult.
Yeah, it is. Like, I find almost all my books will have a chapter of vignette scenes. Not all of them, but most of them, because I love writing them. And I love that kind of just peeks here and there into how those few months are going to get you to the next part. Because I think that's kind of the fun part of it. Like, I don't necessarily love it so much where it's like, they're here. And then suddenly it's 2 months later. It's like, well, what happened in that 2 months? Like,
Yes.
again, stuff happened.
Yeah.
And I love doing like the little vignettes, small scenes, because it gives you that little taste. And you can also very quickly see character growth usually, or relationship growth through them. So I do like, I think I probably put one of those in almost every of my books because I love them.
I actually have a question about that. That's really interesting. So do you, do you just put like a scene break between them, or do you put like a time break, or you just put a scene break?
Depends. So for the Takedown, it was scene break plus the timing because I wanted it clear kind of like where they were.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's less, like it's a little more, you can see that time's going forward, but it's not so important to the story to know this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday, this is Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
The reader doesn't care either.
No,
They don't care.
They don't.
I love that. Okay,
It's
cool.
so
I
much
really
more
love that.
trouble. Like the second I have to map out dates on a calendar to figure out who's where, when, I get myself in trouble. Like I have done so many countbacks of like, but wait a minute, if Easter's here, then how could they possibly be skiing here? Like I'm just making this one up, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, well, I've actually put 2 months worth of time in something that's a calendar week, given these two bookended events.
Yeah. I have a book series, so I don't know if you know, but right now I write alien romance. So I'm writing like science fiction alien romance. And there's this one planet where it's just bear with me, science fiction. It's dark for 30 days and then light for 30 days. And so the problem is it's a series. And so I kind of have like
you have to remember.
I have to remember when the dark segment is and how it makes sense, like across the books.
Yeah.
Because it's also dark for 30 days and they can't be on the surface of the planet when it's dark because there's creatures that want to eat them in the dark. So I have to hide them underground for 30 days. Do you want to know how much of a pain in the ass that is? Like, who decided to do this? Me, because I made it up.
You did.
Dumbest idea ever, just so you know.
I will set all my stories on Earth just to avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
to avoid that. You never know with the way things are going on Earth. we may have 30 days of darkness soon.
We're all underground.
Yeah.
But I will say that's one of the most common notes that I get from a copy editor is me messing up timing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Like it can't be this day right now because it was this day when I'm like, you're right. Thank you. That's why I have you.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for copy editors because I can't, every time I'm writing something and I'm thinking to myself, what freaking day is it? I'm like, you know what? The next book, I'm going to have a calendar. I'm going to use a calendar. Do I ever do that in the next book? Absolutely not.
I tried, but then once you start editing, you start adding in stuff and moving stuff around. Suddenly that chapter that took place on a Monday is now taking place on a Friday, except you've kept all your Monday markers in.
Right. Just sift everything. Oh, it's so awful.
Editing.
God, the worst.
I like drafting so much better.
I love the editing process.
Do you?
The editing process so painful. I'm drafting right now and it's just like, it's so terrible. It sucks. Everything sucks. And, what are words?
Leah, that's the way you are, right? You love the editing stage.
Yeah, much more. I hate writing. And I complain loudly when I write.
Yeah, me too. As long as it's on the page or screen, then I feel like,
Yes.
okay, I can start to work with it. But when there's just screens and screens of empty nothing that I have to fill in with words from my head by myself,
The worst.
I feel like every time I start a book, I have a moment where I'm like, I don't know how to write a book.
oh my God,
Starting is the worst. I will say that.
Feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. And I just have to push through and be like, every time I have this feeling, I'm just going to do it. It's going to feel shitty. I'm going to feel like it's not good because it was so good in my head. And now so it's just that like little bit of like, there's a lot of like psychological journeys we go on when we're writing, I feel like.
Yeah.
And one is, you're always alone with the voices in your head. And sometimes there's ones in there that are like, this isn't working. And you have to be like,
Yeah, that's the voice that's usually the loudest.
Yeah.
So this is something that I don't think that Leah, Megan, I don't think we've ever talked about this in our writing process, but like, so this could go for everybody. Like, do you write while you're listening to music? Do you have like any sort of ambient noise in the background or total silence? I will say I'm a total silence person.
It depends for me. There are times where I will have music, but it has to be the same album on repeat. So it just turns into background noise.
Yeah.
I had there was this YouTube channel and it was BTS Coffee Shop. Oh my God. It was just like mellow music playing in the background with the sounds of a coffee shop. And it was great. But sometimes I do also need silence. It kind of depends what the ambient noise is around me. So if there's repetitive noise around me, then I need something to drown out that noise. But if I'm in quiet, that's good. And you know what? I'm going in circles. It really is mood dependent. And it's not even like, like editing, I will listen to music, and writing, I won't. Like, it's just my mood at the moment. How upset am I with this particular piece that I am working on, and how frustrated.
Yeah, I can have ambient noise. So I can be in an actual coffee shop and like, that's fine. But I can't do actual music because like you're saying, and I like the idea of the same album on repeat, because I will just listen to the music then and I'll start, and I want to sing along and nobody needs to hear that anyway. But yeah, my brain will try to multitask and I will be like, no, you have to choose one, and it'll choose the music.
Brains.
I feel like, we threw in a BTS reference. BTS, I can definitely listen to if I'm listening to like mostly just the Korean heavy music, because I won't as much listen to the words because I don't know what the lyrics mean, or I know what they mean, but like, it's different. And so I do think that I will do that if I'm feeling a little bit more upbeat. And then if I'm in a place where I just need to, if I feel like I'm starting to like kind of like spiral a little bit, or I'm just like trying to like get in a vibe, I will do movie scores. But just like more.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Where I like write, because I'm like, I got to get myself in like, some big mood. So I put on like, some of the big, like Lord of the Rings kind. Like I go big.
Oh my God.
Real extra.
I watch Lord of the Rings battle scenes if I need to get in big mood writing.
Yeah.
Like, so, when Gandalf is coming over the hills.
Stop. Best scene ever.
Best scene ever.
Best
and
scene
I
ever.
watch that, and the Marvel one where it's like the women of Marvel. I'll watch that scene. Like this, let's get this done.
Yeah.
That's the get her done stuff.
Yep, I agree fully.
I don't know why I pictured Leah just like listening to death metal, like thrashing at her keyboard while she's writing.
I have never pictured that ever in my life.
I don't know either. I will. So just as an aside, we have, because I work at a university as my day job. And in one of the offices where we play music, I'm like, look, anyone can listen to anything. Like if I get to listen to like, what I want to listen to, whoever's in and picks first goes. And one of my very darling students loves death metal. And I will say that for me, it's an exercise and just endurance. Like it really I think people who like death metal tend to be amazing and delightful and super fun and cool. I'm just not into the sound of it. And that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I listen to movie scores as well. Sometimes if I'm like wanting something different, I'll pull up movie scores on Spotify. There's like, you can find like 100 hours of them. But I think I've said this on the before. My preferred writing is my husband bought me a subscription to Brain FM.
You got me onto that.
Yeah, probably like 5 years ago.
I've never heard of it.
It is an app that plays different types of noise, I guess you could call it. So there's a sleep one, which I never use.
My daughter does.
But
you got me onto it and I got my daughter onto it.
So I use the it's called like deep focus, or there's like different levels. Like there's one for creativity. There's a deep focus. I prefer the deep focus. There's like it's not white noise because there's a melody to it, but there's also a slight beat that for some reason just like boom, boom, like it just makes me go. I don't know. I think it's genius. Like clearly it was crafted by smart people who like knows what makes you productive. And I swear by it. I actually cannot write without it. Like I can't. Yeah.
It's called Sleep FM. What was it called?
It's Brain FM. It's brain.fm.
Brain.fm. And it's an app. There is like a subscription. It's not that much.
It's like $50 a year, $50 US dollars.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I swear by it.
$1,000 Canadian.
That's a good joke. But yeah, it's my favorite thing. And I truly, like I said, I do the deep focus. You can put it on infinity if you want. I usually do like 30 or 60 minutes and just like, let myself. Yeah.
Speaking of Canadian dollars, this is just a total random aside because I said I'm listening to the comeback. What is the dollar coin called?
Loonie.
A loonie.
Yeah, it's a loonie, and the $2 coin is called a toonie.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Or a
because I knew that Canadian, like I knew that you had Canadian dollars. So I was just thinking dollars and cents, and they start talking about loonies. I'm like, what's a loonie?
Because it's got a loon on it.
Oh,
it's a picture of a loon imprinted on it.
Is there a tune on the toonie?
Or is that just because it's two loons?
It's two loons, so it's a toonie. I like it.
Learning so much tonight.
Right.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about your first 3 books were all, first person perspective from the female point of view. What made you decide to try out a dual narrative for Drop Dead?
I wanted to change. I wanted to try it, see if I could do it, see what it'd be like. I really love the depth you can get into with the first person, but sometimes I was like, what's he thinking though? Like what's going on in his head? Because, I'm putting down what he's acting,
right?
And how he's acting towards her and his reactions and stuff, but you never really get what's he thinking. So I wanted to explore that a bit. So that's why for these ones, I'm just trying to give them both as much equal space as possible. Although I think I still do give a little more space to the female main character's point of view, partly through editing, partly through, I think that's still where I naturally sit. Mm-hmm. Not like he's a secondary character at all, but it's probably like, I don't know, maybe 45% of the book.
Yeah. I loved it. So you did it.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently drafting a book, and my editor, we don't hear from it's not my hero's point of view until maybe chapter 4. And my agent's kind of like, can we get his point of view sooner? And I'm just like, no, like we don't need to hear from him yet. Like I don't know what to say. Like I'm like, no.
Is this a little project that you're working on that has human characters?
Yeah, this is the rom-com that I'm working on, and so yeah, I'm just like, I don't really want to hear from him sooner, and like we have a lot of journey for the heroine to establish, and it's
it's her time.
It's her time. Yeah, we will get to his time.
So we're getting into some stuff now. So I've mentioned more than once that the comeback revolves around a non-idol heroine and a K-pop idol hero, and we'll talk about the comeback in a little bit, but let's back it up to K-pop in general, because obviously you had some inspiration.
I did.
For this book. So what is your K-pop origin story?
Okay, so this is possibly like the most shameful of stories, I swear. So probably, I don't know, 2018, 2019 or something, I got a newsletter and it was talking about Blackpink in this crazy video. And I think it was actually, it might be Do or Kill This Love. I can't remember. I think it was the one with the bedazzled tank. And so I watch it because I'm like, I'm up for this. And I was like, that is the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Like the videos I had watched were like, concert footage or like, whatever, right? But I had never seen anything with that level of production, that level of just wowness. And then kind of went, oh my God, that's neat, and forgot about it. And then there was like a year or two later, there's a website and it's like bad lip reading.
Yes. Yep.
And they did one, it was like sample of my pasta, and it was to BTS Idol. And so we watched it like 1,000 times. And I was like, this is bonkers. And then I was like, I wonder what the actual song's like. Like, is it close to may I say, the actual song's nothing like the bad lip reading version. So I go and I find it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of neat. I think I like this. And around that time, it was, they were playing New York, the Times Square, New Year's Eve. So I was at a friend's house watching TV, and I was like, oh, BTS, like those are the Sample of My Pasta guys. This is totally shameful. It's shameful. So then I watched them play, and then I was like, oh my God. And the next day I was like, what are their names? And as we all know, that is the start to everything. And then I was hooked.
And is your attire for this evening any indication as to who your bias is?
So I am wearing my Auguste sweatshirt. I think Min Yoongi is awesome. I love his music. I think he is super cool. So yeah.
The final answer, that's your bias? I was waiting for it to be a but. Okay.
It was originally, so I started with Jimin. Once you Jim in, you don't Jim out. But
I heard that. That's so funny.
Open my perspective and like, yeah.
And Leah, isn't Jimin your record?
I mean, like, look, we're all OT7.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Suga's got something special for me. And then, yeah, Jimin's a very big record for me. And honestly, after I got up to, I'm just going to digress on my little BTS tale of the night, which was I woke up to pee last night at like 3 because, I'm 45. Yeah. And I got my phone to like light the way. And as I was like holding it, all of a sudden it just popped up and was like Hobie's live, like J-Hope's doing a live. Like,
oh, no way.
30 in the morning. And I was like, did my body just be like, like clearly I'm clicking in. And he's like doing his face mask. It's like it's in LA. So it's like we're in the same time. He's like in his pajamas. He's in the dark. He like hops into bed. I'm like, am I having like an intimate sleepover with J-Hope right now? And so, yeah, that's how I spent. So I'm kind of tired today because I spent like an hour just chilling with J-Hope at 3:30 in the morning.
But it was worth it.
I never recovered my sleep patterns once they started in the pandemic when they were doing the the video concerts, because they were all like 3, 4 in the morning. I swear, I have not recovered. The bags under my eyes have not recovered.
And worth it.
Worth it. Totally worth it.
First of all, I love the bad lip reading like journey to BTS. I think that's amazing.
I've never heard that.
I want to look up the pasta. I want to look up the pasta song now. When they did it, because I feel like I've seen like clips of some of them like on social media. When they did the bad lip reading, was there any music to it, or was it just the voices?
No, it's like a song.
It's a full song.
It's a full song called "Sample of My Pasta." But it goes like so they're kind of describing what they're doing. Like, now I'm on a motorcycle, like with that court. So yeah, it's
okay. Funny.
The whole thing. I actually just watched it again today, just for old time's sake. I'm like, yeah, it's still a banger.
Okay. I'm gonna find a link, and I'm gonna put it in the show notes so that everybody listening can also go and listen.
Yes, please also put the originals, so like the original Idols, so everyone can see the extreme difference in the song.
Right. Bad lip reading, like NFL edition, because I watch the NFL, but that is one of my favorite things ever. It's bad lip reading of the NFL. So I watch those kinds of clips all the time.
Yeah, they are fun.
So, I mean, obviously K-pop has influenced your writing because we've got a story all about K-pop. But just in general, like, more than just, the plot of the comeback, was there like early influence like to your writing just from K-pop, from even like the videos, the songs themselves, whatever it might be?
The funny thing is, it's hard to tell because I started writing rom-coms when I started getting into K-pop in general, right?
Yeah.
I started writing like January 2020 is basically when I decided I'm going to write a rom-com, which is almost exactly when I started my deep dive after, New Year's. So it's hard to tell, but, I get ideas from lots of stuff, including, songs or song lyrics. So there was one, actually, I was just looking at it the other day. There's a Rosé solo, like from Blackpink, and it's Hard to Love. And I was like, oh, that's such an interesting like character, like a woman who's just really hard to love. And I have that written in my gigantic list of plot ideas, inspiration stuff as something to eventually hopefully get to. So, little bits just come here and there, but it's hard to know
what came first.
Like, yeah, without it, right?
Yeah.
It's a soundtrack to a lot of what I write because when I am listening, it's often in the background. And when I'm going for, like, I do a lot of walk, like if I'm stuck or something, I'll go on walks, like really long walks, and I can't listen to audiobooks or podcasts because I need to, noodle with the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times it's K-pop that's playing in the background for part of what Leah said, like, I don't know Korean, so I can let the music kind of play without getting too focused on the lyrics.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that because we're in the same boat as far as like how we came to K-dramas. And Megan, you were K-popping a little bit before K-dramas, and then we kind of all came together. But it was all during the pandemic. Like we just found like the Hallyu wave and hopped on and have never looked back. And that's another thing that I'll say, like, as far as one of the bright spots that came out of like those 2 years of lockdown is what we have now with K-pop and K-dramas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice seeing it a little more mainstream now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we do a K-pop rec each week. Do you have a song that you'd like to recommend?
Yeah. So Jin just came out with his Happy EP.
Hey, me too.
The Jin Wendy duet, like Jin with Wendy, is so good. I think it's called Heart in the Window or Heart in My Window or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact thing. I just think it's the cutest song. I really like it.
Leah, talk about the concert.
Yeah, not only do we like it, I'm obsessed with how they performed it at the concert. Where you could like have like a football field between them. Like that is romantic inspiration to me. I kept being like, I need to understand like what is happening and why this is happening because this is like, it's so separate that now I can't think of anything else. Like if they'd been like by each other, I would have been like, yeah, they're just singing.
Yeah. And I think they only even looked at each other once. And the rest of the time they were looking out.
I just became obsessed. Like the weirdness of all of that. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so like
loved it.
Yeah. Me too.
All the fan edits of like basically all of Red Velvet.
Yeah. All of BTS. Yeah. How many Jin shoulders can you put between them? A lot.
A lot.
Like we were talking about, I'm like, I just don't get how Jin can be. I mean, I love it. How he's Mr. Worldwide handsome and like can be so ridiculously sexy. And then also the biggest like awkward goober in the world. Right. And that's what I love about him.
Yeah. Leah was like, it was a distracting distance between them. And I was like, there's just no way. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, she is exactly right. It's so much distance. It's distracting.
It's like in some of the camera angles, it's like, one here and like, there's
you can't even get the other one in. Yeah.
I think that's Wendy, but I'm not sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that by Rec. And then of course the new ATs is great.
Thank you. I am a massive ATini. I love BTS too, but ATs is like, they have my heart. So.
I love the styling for that video.
Yeah. I mean, their stylists lately have just been blowing it out of the water. It's so great.
Agreed.
So now here's my question that I keep thinking about. And I don't know if I want this answer because I am listening to the comeback right now. And I've already got a picture of Jihoon in my head. So I'm going to see if it's going to be changed now. So the comeback has a K-pop idol as a hero, idol in the band Starloon. Is he based on anyone real, or is he like an amalgamation of just all the amazing idols out there?
He is absolutely an amalgamation. I was actually super, super careful about not basing him on a specific idol or giving him traits that people could be like, oh, that's obviously this idol or that idol from particular bands. I watched a lot of content to kind of come up with Jihoon, like, behind the scenes, performance videos, reaction videos, band reaction videos, all of those kind of like variety shows, and had a list of kind of like, I knew I wanted him extremely emotionally sensitive. Like I wanted him very emotionally aware of his feelings, able to talk kind of that, because I knew I wanted Ari to be
very buttoned up.
Yeah. And I thought that'd be a good foil. But I also thought, there's no way he could, because in the book, Jihoon is basically, Starloon is the biggest band in the world and they've been around for a while. And I was like, there's no way anyone could handle that kind of fishbowl existence that close with other people without being able to talk about feelings. Like a collaboration just doesn't work. Like a team doesn't work like that. Like you can't let resentment simmer. You can't have old angers resurfacing all the time when you need to trust your band members in front of millions of people. So I knew the way I wanted him to be. And then I knew he also had to be hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's some really like funny one-liners with Ari, like just realizing like how hot he is and stuff like that. And I absolutely love it. It's so good. But I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone because you should go listen to it or read it with your eyes, because you can read this one with your eyes too if you would like to.
And I love the research. Like
it's
like
very
you're
important research.
yeah,
it has to be
extremely important research. I need to write a K-pop idol just so my husband's like, are you seriously listening to K-pop again? Like, it's research. I am doing work right now.
Hours.
Yeah.
Hours.
I mean, it's important.
The thing I'm drafting now is the novella that is like a follow-up to the comeback. So I'm back in my research.
Oh, fun.
And
I love it.
Extremely happy right now.
Oh, that's awesome. So I know when I get to the end of this that I get more.
Yes.
Very excited about that. So being a fan of something like K-pop or K-dramas is something that people who are not in that world, like they don't get it, right? So have you ever convinced like a friend or a relative that has never listened to K-pop before to give it a go? And was it a success?
Yes. Thank you. I have. I've actually done this. One was one of my editors, not super into K-pop. And she's like, she probably knows something about it. And now she's a fan, which is great. And another was a friend of mine who, like, when you start getting into stuff, especially if it's stuff like K-pop or K-dramas, often people around you will be like, why? Like, why are you watching that? Aren't you too old for that? Or whatever, right? So I did get a little bit of that, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep loving my thing, talking about my thing, and she will come to it in her own time. And she did.
I love it.
She did. I just needed to wait for that moment in her life when she was weak.
And then thrust it at her.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guess what? So yeah.
And then you realize it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And
yeah. Yep. Now I've got a friend to talk about all this stuff with.
Right.
Yep.
And that's how this podcast started, is we like, I don't know, Megan, how I saw it. Had been on social media when you were like sharing something about Stray Kids, I think it was.
No, it was NCT.
Oh, it was NCT. It was something that you shared. And I just like texted her like,
wait,
after I saw
know each other?
We
knew each other, but I didn't know she was into K-pop, and she didn't know that we were into K-dramas.
Yeah.
So we weren't talking about it because like we didn't know anybody else who liked it. Like Leah and I had just started, we'd watched like 2 dramas, I think. And so then I texted Megan and I'm like, okay, if you really like K-pop, I think you might like K-dramas. Like you should watch this drama, Crash Landing on You.
And it was a pandemic. What else am I going to do?
It was a pandemic. We were all looking for content to consume, right? And so she's like, okay. She's like, if you'll watch some videos, I'll watch the K-drama.
Didn't I?
We traded.
We did. I was like, I gave them music videos and I was like, if I'm going to watch this K-drama and read subtitles.
It's a 60-hour commitment versus like.
Yeah, anyway.
Yes. Well, a few songs. Right. A few songs.
I'm the one. I mean,
but you know what?
In the end, I benefited the most for sure,
right.
because
it worked. But that's what happened then, is that then the 3 of us, like after we looped Megan into the whole K-drama thing, we had this like long text chain going, like daily, like talking about the episode that we just watched, and just jokingly, we're like, we talk so much about this, we should like do a podcast or something. And thank you, pandemic, because here we are like 3 years later, and it's still going. 4 years. It's almost 4 years now. We're like,
it's such a weird connector sometimes. Like,
yeah.
So I read a news article written by someone I used to work with. And so I DM'd her. I'm like, oh my God, you like BTS? I like them too. Cause I am, it's something to connect with. And she's like, oh, do you want to join my like BTS group chat? I'm like, damn straight, I want to join the BTS group. And now one of the women on the group chat actually has the most amazing K-pop newsletter. It's called Bunny Pop, like BUNNI Pop. You should really join it. She's a journalist. So it's extremely insightful, thought out. And she's a huge K-pop fan. So so I met her through that, like a bunch of cool women through that. It's like, Yeah.
It is. It's an amazing connector. Like
It
we've had the
is.
same thing with like listeners of the podcast who like are friends with each other because of coming together, because they're our listeners and like talking to each other on social media or in our Patreon. Like it's so much fun. Like I love that it brought the three of us together to get to do this, but it's even like so much better to see it bringing like other people in this community together.
Yeah, it's so great. It's such a fun thing to talk about usually.
It is. And it's such like a welcoming community too, right? Like I had not experienced K-pop live until my first August D concert. And I did not know what I was in for because that was also before I'd been to the Eras tour. So I didn't know what these like mega fan experiences were like. And it was just the most like joyous, welcoming thing. Like it's indescribable. Like it's just such a great community of people to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
What are you currently listening to?
Jen Happy is what I'm currently listening to. I had that on a repeat today. It's just like, nice to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun to have him back.
Yeah.
Like
it's so, what I was thinking though the other day? I'm like, wow, time's really flown. Like I remember when they did the hiatus festa when they're, I think it was festa when they're just like, we're going on hiatus. I was like, oh my God, like 2025, I'm gonna be dead by that point. So far in the future.
You're like, here I am, alive and well.
But it's
still not 2025. So who knows?
So
Leah, what are you doing in 2025?
I am going to Seoul. I have my tickets. So I am definitely going. So I'm very excited. And it'll have been 4 years, which is wild.
Wow.
So I became Army kind of like November, December of 2021. So I was not around. I was there like 7 months, maybe. I was like, it's my first Festa. I'm excited. Like, can't wait to get into Festa and see what that's all about. I bet they're going to announce a world tour soon because Proof is coming out. Oh my goodness. I did not know what I was doing. And so it was like, but it's been a unique experience to like really settle into the fandom during the solo era and kind of like take I think it's been really fun to see, how different each of the musical offerings are, like completely different.
Yeah.
And so it's just making me more excited for when you put them all back together because, just like their vocals, their tastes, kind of like how they approach music is all really amazing. And then to know that they're all going to come back. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how, because when you're together for so long, like remember they were talking about like, we need to grow as individuals. Mm-hmm. So it'll be really interesting to see the new perspectives and thoughts. Yep. Hopefully they all do decide to come back and make music again, but who really knows?
I'm pretty sure that they definitely are just given like the language that's going out to shareholders. But
yes, I think so too. I think there's probably like contracts there, but I hope they want to, I guess is what I'm saying. Like
my vibes are that they do. I think that when I see Jin now talk, I'm just giving my gut feeling of, either you're winning an Oscar and I don't think you are because like you don't need to, but I just think like they're genuine. And I was thinking about it actually, like, because, we all put our own personal spin on things.
Yeah.
And I was watching like Jin talk about like how like, look, I like now that I can do my own music, like I can be like no choreography and there's like no choreography. Mm-hmm. He's like, I miss being with the members. And the other week I had a book release and I did a pod just for myself, like my own podcast. And I was like, I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. No one's here to like tell me I can't talk about like, feet. Whatever I want to talk about, I got the floor. And it was fine. It was good. I liked it. But I so much like more being with like my team.
Yeah.
My members.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? You're right. Because what's the first thing he did when he got out of the Army? Yeah. He had like his meet and greet.
Yeah.
A day later, 2 days later.
Yeah. He just hugged a few thousand people.
That's so crazy to me that like that's what he want. Like,
yeah.
And then he was so insistent, like, no, I want to hug them. Like, come on stage and hug me.
But then what's even better is that he hugged, because that's when I'm like, Army is the most abstract, like purple miasma in his life. If he was like, yes, I can hug all of them. But if Wendy's on stage, I need the entire Vatican between.
It's so wild. It's so wild.
I'm obsessed. It's just like, it's endless fodder to think about. Like, and the other thing that's nice about, because again, like you're like creating persona, like these are real people, but then there's also kind of like, like their public face and stuff. Yep. But then when you're thinking about from a writer's term, like the archetypal everything becomes just really fascinating too. Yes. Kind of like, and I'm sure you spent a lot of time thinking about that when you were kind of like especially if you're just looking at a ton of different idols, kind of creating like your own like version that's going to be your, like, you're not like doing like a fanfic retelling of one person.
Yeah.
Being like, okay, what does it mean to have like this kind of personality or this kind of like spin on it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because you can see when you start watching like a lot of the content, you can see, as you're saying, the archetypes in groups, like the roles people play. Like often there's like a shyer member, and then there's like the more like cutesy ego member, like, so you can see people being slot into roles and you kind of wonder, how did that come about? Is that going with the natural personality? Is that market research? There's so much you don't know behind the scenes and what goes on in the industry, but it's also, you have so much access. Like, this is what to me is so unbelievable K-pop. It's like, as you're saying, like, the live where you're with somebody putting on space mask, going to bed, like you feel like you have such intimate access to their lives that they have to be the person they seem to be, because you're almost with them 24/7 when, you look at the hours and hours over years of footage that have been collected, even though, yeah, sure, parts of it are edited, but with the lives, I think it's very difficult for someone to just not be them hours and hours and hours live. So that was a very roundabout way of saying, like, I think the archetypes are like, groups have those certain roles in the same way when you're in a corporate meeting, people fall in those certain roles too. And it's just so interesting to me, the interactions and the dynamics.
Like, I mean, I would feel like, we have them and then they challenge them, they push back against them, they try different things. And then that becomes really interesting too, to be like, I feel like because then they talk about the dualities and then you've got like, even more than that, just like the layers upon layers. And so, yeah, it just becomes this like really interesting character study that you're kind of like, you've got enough parasocial to be like, no, this feels like, I know I'm getting a curated experience, yet it feels, I just watched, how many times have we watched Jungkook sleep now and snore? And he's not faking. To watch a person fall asleep, I haven't seen that many people in my life fall asleep.
True. Yeah.
Like, something you normally just do.
True. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting to me, this division in public and private, and what we're owed as fans and what people want to give and where those lines are drawn. And the anger when people don't give as much as people expect or want to pull back a bit.
It's that duality as the fan too, where you're like, you feel like you know them as a person. And so you think that they owe you then, right? Because you're like, I know you, so you owe me, that wave or that picture or whatever. And I think, and again, this is not a spoiler, but I think you touch on that really well in the comeback with, there's a scene with Jihoon in a coffee shop and there's a journalist waiting outside with like her 2 cameras. And he's talking about how she's not coming inside because she's being respectful of my privacy and respectful of my space. But she's also out there stalking him and will not leave until she gets the picture. And it's that give and take too that you have to have when you choose that life, right? That you're like, I'm going to play my part for her and I'm going to be the person that I need to be in front of the camera. And I get my time inside this coffee shop and that's my privacy.
Yeah. Yeah. That celebrity is always incredibly fascinating to me because it's like there are certain job roles where maybe all you want to do is act, but if you want to act on the level you want, there's this whole side dish of the fame that you have to deal with because that comes along with the job and the ability to work in those roles that you want to do. And it's just how different people react to it and how people react to them reacting is just so fascinating to me. And now, like in this world of social media, it's, if you think back to how celebrity has changed even in the last decade, it's just like night and day.
Because it's this instant access that we have to everything that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just the most interesting thing. It's just so like how that world is structured.
I completely agree. And we had Chappell Roan recently, the singer, who like pushed back against that. And she got a lot of flack for it because some people are like, but this is your job. And she's just like, no, my job is to sing and perform. My job isn't to be stopped on the street, be yelled at. My job isn't for you to harass my family. She's like, when I am like in my private life, I'm in my private life. And I mean, I think she should. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard.
No,
it's hard.
I 100%. I think a lot about like, what are we owed? And I think we are often just given so much.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot about like, what is our responsibility then in like a fandom moment? Like if you see people, I always like have so much respect for the people who just like walk on, like, just keep it inside your heart and like,
yeah.
Well, it's because it's this, again, the social media and the instant access gives a lot of people this sense of entitlement that you would not have if you had met that person face to face, right? It's this weird sort of social bravado that you have. And I don't think that entitlement is owed at all, but I think it has emboldened a lot of people.
But you can even move that into like, for example, like in writer spaces, I'm sure we've all had people reach out that you're like, like you really just like slid into my DM or like onto my Instagram wall with like, that little bit of feedback. And sometimes you're just like, do you know that I like see like, like it's funny to be like, do you know there's like a real person on the other end here? Like,
yeah.
I'm not sure if you fully know. And so even though like, of course, like I'm not like a famous person, but like, I've definitely had it happen enough now that it's like, like just, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I write under Megan Erickson, but then I also write under my pen name. And with my pen name, I usually don't put my picture attached. My profile pictures are my author logo. It's not necessarily because I care. Like I have the names are linked and everything. I just tried to really make that. It's not like I'm posting pictures of my kids on that like profile or whatever. So anyway, this is all business. And I've definitely gotten DMs where I think people don't think I'm real.
Oh,
because I remember I got a DM recently that was like, I don't even know if you're reading this, whoever you are.
Ooh.
It was like a really weird wording.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't think I'm real. And I had to write back and be like, I actually had to write back and say, I am a real person. I read this is a person reading messages. And sometimes I get emails that are like, you're probably never going to see this. Your assistant is going to throw this in the trash, which first of all, assistant? Who do you think you're talking to?
La-di-da.
Like it's wild. You either have people think like you make pennies or you have people who think that you can hire assistants to read your emails. Like it's wild. It's just a wild world out there. Yeah. But I do feel like there are people, especially now with like the disconnect of like social media, and it's not like I have to post my picture. And so people, I don't know if they think I'm like AI if I don't post. You know what I mean? It's very strange.
Huh.
The whoever you are took me aback.
Yeah.
Took me way back. Yeah.
That seems unnecessarily confrontational.
It was very strange. It's very
to start off a message with, you're probably never going to read this. You're probably never going to see this, whoever you are.
I get those emails frequently.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very strange.
How is that ingratiating you into anybody's like correspondence?
I mean, I don't get mad because I kind of especially because this is a pen name, I do have some sort of like, it's different when someone's writing to you under your real name and they address you by your real name. I'm sorry, that affects me. But when someone's addressing me by my pen name, which is Ella, it's not like my name. I don't know. I'm able to disconnect a little bit there. It still bugs me to be addressed in an odd way, but anyway. So it is. And I'm not like famous. That's what I'm saying. It's just, I can't imagine being someone like Colleen Hoover. Can you imagine the emails she gets? Like,
I think she probably does have an assistant.
She does. I
was just going to say she's not reading. Correct. She's not reading them.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But I just mean that I just can't imagine. That blows me away to.
My anxiety is such that if I get an email that's just like my name and comma, I freak out.
Oh, same. What have I done? Someone's immediately mad at me. I had this horrible dream the other night where I thought my sister-in-law was furious at me, wouldn't talk to me, was like, I hate you now. You ruined our family. I woke up in a cold sweat. I was like, I had to text her. I'm like, you're not mad at me. And she's like, what are you talking? We haven't talked in like 3 weeks. What are you talking about? I'm like, clearly I have too much anxiety.
So this is all just to say, be really nice to Megan when you slide into her DMs. She's a real person, whether she's Ella or Megan.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Whoever you are.
Whoever you are.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm really excited. Lily, you've got 2 fantastic sounding books coming in 2026, The Library of Flowers and The Vacation Shift. And I think one of them is YA. Yes. So tell us about these books coming in a couple of years.
So the Vacation Shift is the YA, and it's about a 16-year-old named Ivy who ends up on a group tour of Japan with her mom and a bunch of retirees. And the only
love it.
people their age on the tour is another single dad and a guy like his son who's her age. And the two kids had to band together to stop their parents from getting together.
Oh my gosh.
I love the title and that premise. Like,
Yes,
I feel
that's
like
awesome.
that just all fits. I love it. And my daughter reads YA, so I will be happy to get that for her.
Yes, it's actually based on, I went to Japan, not this summer, last summer. And then when I was a kid, I went on a group tours with my parents where I was like the youngest one by decades. So it's possible I channeled some stuff there.
I love it. And what's the Library of Flowers about?
So the Library of Flowers, I'm really excited about this. It's been a long time coming. It's a women's fiction, and it's about a ancient family of Chinese witches who can change emotion through perfume, except our main character can't find that power.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like Encanto vibes.
This sounds so
Set
cool.
in 4 time periods. So the main story is contemporary, and there's also chapters set in the Tang, Ming, and Qing dynasties.
Oh my gosh. I'm so ready for that.
I know, that sounds badass.
So
Are these
excited.
both through source books?
The YA is not. It's through.
Okay.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
accounts.
It's finally putting my Chinese studies degree to use.
I love it. They both sound amazing. Super excited. And also super excited for the comeback novella that I didn't know was coming. And now I know it is.
Yeah. And like I said, I read Leah's book, wanted to read that, absolutely loved it, read it in a day. Cause again, I read fast. And I also was like, it's a Sunday. No one talked to me. And so then I have the comeback to read next. And I'm really excited about it.
You like it?
I'm sure I will. I'm ready for a K-pop idol. We've been asking for that in K-dramas repeatedly.
It's our hill to die on.
It is our hill to die. We want an idol bodyguard romance. We don't care the gender. Mix it up. Do whatever you want. We just want it.
I want it so many different ways. I just want it over and over.
We want it over and over again, many different ways. We basically want the bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Like, we just want that over and over and over
But
again.
idol. Yeah.
But
make it idol.
Like, why not?
There's so many ways you can go with that.
So many. And I want every way.
I want a whole scene in the Incheon airport where like the bodyguard has to like launch someone away from the idol. Like I already come on.
Yeah. See, I like the red carpet scenes. They open the door to the red carpet. And especially if it's like you get the view from the idol's point of view and it's the paparazzi, like all of the camera lights of black.
Yes.
See, you get it.
We need it so badly. We really do.
We want. So we've been
but
asking.
You know what? While we don't have it, you can go read the comeback or the stand-in or the takedown or drop dead and everything else that's coming. Lily, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us tonight. This was so much fun.
This was I'm looking forward to this. So this was awesome. Thank you.
I'm so glad.
We got a lot of topics in too. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
As much as we do talk about K-dramas, like we always talk about them from the writing perspective. And we have found that our listeners absolutely love when we talk writing. And so this is going to be so much fun for everybody. So,
and they've been asking for book recs. So obviously we will link everything in the show notes and you can check out her books.
Great. Thank you.
So yeah.
Ever want to slide into the DMs and just talk BTS? I am, that's an open invitation to anyone out there. Like, pretty much, just come talk to me about BTS. I would rather be doing that than 95% of the things I'm doing.
And anyone can slide in my DMs and talk about ATs. We do have listeners sometimes who just send me random gifts. No explanation. They just send me ATs gifts and reels. And I am delighted. Thank you.
No, like here, watch this GIF, whoever you are.
No.
If you're even real.
Whoever you are. Are you even?
I don't even know if AI can watch GIFs, but
Is this your cat typing?
You're not real, but your cat is. Okay. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.
Annyeong.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFternoonADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!